Newport Beach, Will O'Neill. Mayor O'Neill, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Elex and Dr. Drew.
All right, so the governor says, we need to do this. It's public safety. It's important. Bear with us for a little bit longer. Stay away from the beach. What do you say?
Well, I say that the governor's decision to only close Orange County beaches had to have been driven way more by politics than by data. Because if you're looking at the data, Orange County has a population of 3.2 million people. We're bigger than 22 states right now. And we've lost 50 people to this virus, which is 0.001% of our population. But I will just say, you've seen the experiment of what it looks like to close the beaches already in Los Angeles County. And they've been closed for over a month. But every single beachfront community in Los Angeles County has a higher per capita COVID rate than every single open beach community in Orange County. And if the governor were really looking only at data, he'd be looking at San Diego also, which has twice the number of people who have died from this virus than Orange County, but their beaches stayed open. I actually think the real remedy should have been open all the beaches, not close any of them.
Well, certainly that bears the science. The science says the virus dies quickly in sunlight and is not transmitted out of doors, especially if you're practicing social distancing and wearing masks, which I guess the guards have had no difficulty getting people to comply with that. Is that correct?
No, not in Newport Beach. I mean, so what the governor said in the clip you just showed was that he looked at images of people not socially distancing. The problem is those images were forced perspective. It's basically like taking a mile of beach and making it look like a meter. Of course, people are going to look like they're on top of each other. But aerial photographs that our police took from our police helicopter that we posted online show a different story. And quite frankly, our police chief, our fire chief, our lifeguards, they all said, by and large, people were socially distancing this past weekend. And the people who weren't, and I'm not saying everyone was, because there were people who weren't, but they got to spend time talking to our lifeguards and our police department about why it's important to maintain that social distancing.
But I think some of what they would say is, look, you get that many people in the same place, it's impossible for everybody to socially distance. When you park nearby, you're walking through the streets. I mean, you're going to end up interacting with people in a way you might not interact with people if you were simply staying at home.
And I understand that position. And so what we were going to be doing as a city was we had a plan in place to address exactly what you just described. In Newport Beach, a 4th of July weekend brings 130,000 people to our beaches. We know how to handle crowds. And so we were planning on doing that. But the governor never reached out to me. I'm the mayor of Newport Beach. All he had to do was call to ask, what are you about to do to see if you can make this better? And we had a plan. Instead, the first call we got from the governor's office was someone calling us and saying, you're closing your beaches.
So what is your plan? How do you do this safely?
Yeah, I mean, our plan was to make sure that we had actually far less parking along the peninsula, for example. We were about to deploy a substantial amount of traffic enforcement to make sure people were directed around neighborhoods, directed into areas and away from people's the tight sidewalks that we had there. We had a plan in place. The governor just never let us put it into
Certainly,
practice.
There must be some constitutional protections for this. I know it's extraordinary times, but this seems like an overreach of your privilege.
Well, the governor certainly inserted his own will for our discretion. I mean, our city council met for 4 hours on Tuesday to talk about this exact issue. Came away believing that our plan in place in consultation with our local law enforcement would be able to take care of the issues and make sure that we were spreading people out. Because again, we saw a crowd a third the size of a 4th of July weekend. We can handle that. But the governor apparently said no.
Yeah, and you tweeted out this chart which compared LA beach communities to Orange County as well, talking about what you were talking about earlier in terms of that per capita comparison. So now the question is, where do you go from here? I know you're meeting about a potential lawsuit. You're going to be meeting tomorrow as a city to talk about that. Do you think that the city should sue?
Well, I think we need to talk about it. I think the fact that Huntington Beach and Dana Point filed a lawsuit this morning, and then you mentioned earlier at the top of the show that they had lost their temporary restraining order hearing this afternoon, I think that puts a stumble out of the gates. But I do think we need to push back on this. I do think that it's really important that we continue to advocate that we do understand how to run our own city. We do have a police department, and he really shouldn't be inserting his views from 400 miles away.
Okay, so what do you think people should do this weekend? Do you recommend that residents come to the beaches in civil disobedience? Will you be going out and going to the beaches in civil disobedience of this?
Yeah, if it's not abundantly clear, I'm home right now. So, and I'll be honest, I plan on spending most of my time at home. I think that given where the orders are and given what is going on, I do plan on observing, mostly trying to stay in my neighborhood to get outdoor exercise, because outdoor exercise is incredibly important right now. There's too much anxiety out there. So I can't advocate for people to go put our police and our lifeguards in tough positions.
Yeah.
They have a hard enough job.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know, like you, I was a big fan of Loveline with Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla, so I know it's exciting to be on with
He was
Dr.
listening in
Drew.
Fresno, though.
Oh, this is the best. I'm so happy. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Making dreams come true right here on Fox 11. Thank you very much, Mayor Will O'Neill. We'll check back in with you to see what happens there. Up